I uncovered every secret from the last 30 years. And I have given all the proofs of who was involved with Diddy. I have presented the videotape of Diddy's parties as evidence. Now no one can save Diddy and the other celebs. After watching the rest of the documentary, you'll understand everything.
I am the fucking hardest hustler in the world. This is Savage Part 2. Don't tell me about shit. It's 2022 and I'm still a savage. Whatever I want, I get. Whatever I want, I fucking get.
Today is Friday, February 20th, 2026. And for Sean Diddy Combs, this isn't just another court date. This is the day everything changed. The man who was already serving a 50-month federal sentence woke up this morning inside FCI Fort Dix, believing his legal battle was under control. By the end of the day, that sentence would double in devastation, because just hours ago, a federal courtroom made a shocking decision. Diddy's 50-month sentence has now been increased to 10 years behind bars. And here's where it gets even more explosive. This dramatic twist didn't come from new raids. It didn't come from a surprise arrest. It came after 50 Cent released a brand new Netflix documentary. A project that allegedly exposed deeper layers of Diddy's case, reignited public outrage, and triggered legal pressure powerful enough to reopen the courtroom doors. A documentary, a media storm, a reopened case, and now a decade-long sentence. How did we get from 50 months to 10 years? And did a streaming platform just shake the federal justice system? Let's break it down.
50 Cent has been working on this documentary for almost 2 years. The footage he has is insane. The people he got speaking about Diddy is ridiculous.
When 50 Cent dropped his new Netflix documentary in February 2026, it didn't feel like content. It felt like a calculated move. This wasn't a sequel for views. It wasn't a recap for streaming numbers. This documentary was positioned as an expansion, a deeper dive into the legal universe surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. According to reports, the film introduced extended witness interviews that were not highlighted in the first series, alleged timeline inconsistencies in earlier court proceedings, commentary from legal analysts questioning sentencing proportionality. A structured breakdown of patterns prosecutors may not have fully emphasized. But the most powerful element wasn't just the information, it was the narrative framing. The documentary didn't present isolated incidents. It presented patterns. It connected dates, locations, relationships, financial movements, and testimonies into a continuous storyline, suggesting that the original sentence may not have reflected the full scope of the allegations discussed publicly. Within hours of release, clips began trending across platforms. Media panels debated whether sentencing had been too lenient. Legal commentators began asking if procedural gaps existed, and then something critical happened. Diddy's opposition legal team reportedly filed a renewed motion, arguing that newly surfaced material and broader contextual analysis warranted judicial reconsideration. This is where media meets law. Because while documentaries do not have legal authority, they can amplify public scrutiny. And amplified scrutiny can trigger legal pressure. The new Netflix release didn't directly change the sentence, but it changed the conversation. And once the conversation shifted, the courtroom doors that had seemed permanently closed slowly began to reopen. What started as a streaming release turned into a legal ripple, and that ripple would soon become a wave.
That claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense.
Which we never believed, by the way.
Yeah.
Before today's dramatic courtroom twist, before the documentaries, before the media pressure, there was a federal investigation quietly building in the background. The case against Sean Diddy Combs did not begin overnight. It developed in phases. First came the scrutiny. Federal authorities began examining financial records, business dealings, and reported misconduct patterns that allegedly stretched over an extended period. What initially appeared as isolated allegations slowly evolved into something prosecutors described as a broader federal concern. Then came the escalation. Search warrants were executed, Properties were raided, electronic devices and documents were seized. The imagery alone shifted public perception. When federal agents move publicly, the message is clear. The investigation is serious. After months of review, formal charges were filed, legal teams assembled, court dates were scheduled. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors laid out their narrative, presenting evidence, timelines, financial trails, and witness accounts intended to establish responsibility. The defense pushed back. They challenged credibility, they questioned context, they argued proportionality. What followed was a high-profile federal proceeding that drew national attention. Media outlets tracked every development. Commentary panels debated every motion, but eventually the case reached its decisive moment: sentencing. The court determined that while the charges warranted incarceration, the sentence would be 50 months in federal prison. For some observers, the sentence seemed substantial. For others, it appeared lighter than expected given the scale of allegations discussed publicly, but legally it was final. Diddy was remanded into federal custody and transferred to FCI Fort Dix, a low-security federal correctional institution in New Jersey. The headlines cooled, the courtroom lights dimmed, the appeals window narrowed, and for months the system appeared settled. A 50-month sentence, a closed chapter, at least. That's what the public believed before media pressure and renewed scrutiny reopened the conversation.
A lot of people say I'm doing this out of revenge because we've got beef. I won't deny it. Me and Diddy have had issues. We've been going at it since 2006. He blocked Mace from signing with me. I dissed him in the track. He launched the vodka line. I launched mine. It's been a back and forth for years. You know why he's so desperate to shut this film down? Because he knows we found things. Footage, phone calls, conversations he recorded himself, contracts, NDAs, real receipts. But Diddy ain't the only problem. He's just a symbol. This industry is full of people like him smiling in the spotlight while pulling strings and hurting people behind the scenes. I don't make things up.
December 2nd, 2025. That was the day the temperature around the Diddy case started rising again. On that date, 50 Cent released a 4-part Netflix documentary series centered around the legal saga of Sean Diddy Combs. At the time, Diddy had already been sentenced to 50 months. He was already serving time. Legally, the case appeared settled, but the documentary didn't treat it like a finished story. The 4 parts were structured strategically. Part 1 revisited the origins of the federal investigation, laying out how scrutiny began, how allegations surfaced, and how authorities started connecting threads. Part 2 focused on the raids, dramatic visuals, expert commentary, breakdowns of what federal seizures typically indicate, and how such operations escalate cases. So Part 3 examined courtroom developments, highlighting prosecution arguments, defense responses, and moments that shaped public perception. Part 4 questioned the sentencing outcome, asking whether 50 months truly reflected the broader narrative presented throughout the investigation. The series wasn't just informational, it was persuasive in tone. Legal analysts, commentators, and media personalities were featured discussing sentencing standards, federal guidelines, and precedent in comparable cases. Social media exploded. Clips went viral. Debate panels formed. Commentary channels dissected every episode. For many viewers, the documentary reframed the case. Instead of seeing it as a concluded federal matter, audiences began seeing it as a story with unanswered questions. But here's the critical point. Despite the public reaction, nothing legally changed in December 2025. The court did not reopen proceedings. The sentence remained 50 months. Diddy remained incarcerated at FCI Fort Dix. The justice system did not move. However, your perception shifted, and sometimes perception is the first domino. The December 2 documentary planted seeds of doubt and debate. It didn't reopen the case, but it reopened the conversation. And 2 months later, that conversation would evolve into something far more serious.